Good morning, South Africa. Welcome to the Social Show, your one-stop shop of all things CSI and CSR. We promise to give you the very latest news in all that is trying to better the country and all that is not. So we're not just giving you good news, we're also giving you the good and the bad. So you have a very exciting show when you put those two ingredients together. But as usual, I'm not going to speak too much. I'm just going to go straight into the news. Local innovators and social entrepreneurs that are solving social problems facing disadvantaged South Africans may now enter the SAB Foundation's 7th Annual Social Innovation and 2nd Annual Disability Empowerment Awards. The awards seek to reward the best ideas that enhance the lives of disadvantaged South Africans, with a focus on women, youth, and people with disabilities and those living in rural areas. The awards consist of 2 categories, each with its own particular focus. The Social Innovation Awards are aimed at innovators, social entrepreneurs, institutions, and social enterprises with prototypes at an early stage, or businesses at an early stage rather, that can solve social problems. The Disability Empowerment Award seeks and awards social entrepreneurs and enterprises which have come up with innovative solutions which improve access to the economy or have solutions for disabled people. People with disabilities are some of the most marginalized members of our society, with an estimated 70% unemployment rate. The SAB Foundation Disability Empowerment Awards was added as a special award category in 2016. The awards range from 150,000 to 1.2 million, and on the evening, additional development prizes may be awarded at judges' discretion. In addition to the prize money, the winners will also be assessed on a case-by-case basis and placed on a tailored program with especially selected business mentors as well as technical experts. The program is flexible and is adjusted to the needs of each winner as mutually agreed upon by both winner and their mentor. To follow the application process, you can go to www.sabfoundation.co.za to enter. In other news, Dutch officials have opened what is being built as one of the world's largest offshore wind farms, with 150 turbines spinning in action far out in the North Sea. Over the next 15 years, the Gemini Wind Park, which lies 85 kilometers off the northern coast of the Netherlands, will meet energy needs of about 1.5 million people. At full winds, the wind park has a generating capacity of some 600 megawatts and will help supplies over 700,000 Dutch households with renewable energy, the company has said. The $3 billion project is a collaboration between the Canadian independent renewable energy company Northland Power and wind turbine manufacturer Siemens Wind Power and Dutch maritime contractor Van Oord and waste processing company HVC. It has been quite a complex undertaking, said the managing director Matthias Haag, and said that particularly as this wind park, the wind park will lie relatively far offshore and took quite a lot of logistics to set up. Gemini will contribute about 13% of the country's total renewable energy supply, and about 25% of its wind power. It will also help reduce emissions of carbon dioxide among the greenhouse gases that cause global warming by 1.25 million tons. The Netherlands remains dependent on fossil fuels, which still make up about 95% of its energy supply, according to a 2016 report from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. But the Dutch government has committed to ensuring that some 14% of its energy comes from renewable sources such as wind and solar power by 2020 and 16% by 2023, with the aim of being carbon neutral by 2015. And lastly, in our news, as part of BMI's research ongoing CSR initiative with Ubuhle Care and Development Center in Bronkhorstspruit, BMI research staff members together with Netball SA erected 2 full-size and 2 portable netball poles which were donated by Netball SA. In addition, Netball SA donated balls and will assist with the netball coaching at the school in the future. BMI research staff also spent time assisting the children with their lessons and working in the school's vegetable garden. Ubuhle and the development care was founded in 2008 by local women and men who work on a voluntary basis. Ubuhle offers social care, preschool, and an English primary school up to grade 7. The center also provides after-school care workshops and courses for adults, as well as some aid to develop new income sources to 200 families living in the rural area. BMI Research has been supporting Ubuhle and the development center since its inception. And that concludes our news for the day.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.bstownmedia.co.za.
You are tuned into the Social Show live, coming to you from the beautiful suburb, which is Melville. I can't call it a suburb, I'd call it a bohemian, artsy-fartsy area in Johannesburg. But anyway, if you want a little bit more on the kind of work that we do and the news that we take, please, that we actually give, or please don't forget to go to social-tv.co.za, and you can get, again, your video content and your news regarding CSI. If I can't cover everything, but I'm pretty sure if you go to our site, you will definitely get the lowdown and you will know exactly what's going on in your country. But anyway, going back into today, a number of South African, I don't know if you guys know this, a number of South African Cabinet Ministers went on a hunger strike this past Sunday night at 6 p.m. And it is actually the first time in history, in South African history, that a significant number of the country's cabinet is simultaneously going on a hunger strike to show some sort of solidarity with a cause that they sort of believe in. This is because the cause actually is the symbolic act is actually in support of the 1,100, I think 1,500 between those numbers, Palestinian political prisoners who are on day 29 of the hunger strike that began on April the 17th in protest against the detention without trial, solitary confinement, abuse by prison officials, denial of access to lawyers and families, and inadequate medical care. The prisoners have only been consuming salt and water and are now seriously compromised in terms of their health. This is a very important campaign for me. It's called also the Dignity Strike S.A campaign, where you're finding a lot of South African cabinet ministers, a lot of TV personalities, from Khuli Roberts to our deputy president, Cyril Ramaphosa, Aaron Motsoaledi, Ayanda Dlodlo, Naledi Pandor, Rob Davis, Ibrahim Patel, I know Yusuf Abrahamji, a lot of famous and political people, a lot of media personalities are getting involved and really supporting the Palestinians who are going through the very worst conditions in the prisons in Israel. Because of the Israelites, I guess. And I think a lot of people can sort of relate to the struggle, and a lot of people can relate to the hunger strike because of the similarities that the Palestinian people have with how black people were treated during apartheid, and that's exactly where I think the commonality lies, and where we're all sort of drawing our strength from. We're all drawing our strength because we kind of understand their struggle. As Africans understand their struggle, and we definitely are going to participate. I'm participating soon. I'm going to definitely put up my name to go on a bit of a strike for 24 hours and sort of show my solidarity with the Palestinian political prisoners. But hunger strikes have taken place elsewhere throughout history as a method of non-violent sort of resistance. And by drawing international attention to the plight of prisoners, they aim to put pressure on their jailers and spur a change in policy. Remember, at the end of the day, I always say this on the show, that the most important thing is policy change. Yes, everything is great. Revolutions are great. Standing up, marching, striking, all of those things are really good pushbacks and really good shows of power and people's power and female power and those who are discriminated or pushed down, showing it's a great reflection of their power. But until policies change, the fight continues. So hunger strikes do have the potential to put a lot of pressure on jailers and unfair systems to spur change in policy. That's exactly what happened in South Africa. I'm not necessarily saying that hunger strikes were the reason, but I mean, when there's pressure on those who are inflicting the pain, but everywhere else in the world, it's a global movement. You find that policies can be changed a little bit quicker, a little bit. Now, the tactic was used by British and American suffragettes in the early 20th century, Irish Republicans, and most notably Mahatma Gandhi, among others. And under international human rights norms, hunger striking is seen as a form of freedom of expression and a civil and political right. And I completely agree. Now, hunger strikes are nothing new. Their practice is recorded in Indian writings dating back to 750 BC, including Valmiki's epic poem Ramayana, and has been used all throughout history. Now, the practice of using a hunger strike to bring debtors to justice was abolished by India's government in 1861, which means that it was happening often enough before then that the government felt the need to step in. I know there's been a lot of that. I know there was a lot of that in Russia as well, but people were then force-fed, which is like the worst thing for me. So a lot of the riots or the peaceful resistance that went through hunger strikes, a lot of people were force-fed and food was shoved down their throat, water, all those kinds of things, because the jailers and those who were in the wrong didn't want it to become something that was known internationally or globally. So there's a lot of issues around that. So today I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about people in history who have used hunger strikes to really change policy, to change the way in which people view a system, to change the way in which the misconceptions as to how they're being treated. I think it's very important that we really do show our solidarity with the Palestinian political prisoners, because they really are showing us that it's really, really difficult in those prisons. They aren't able to have basic human rights, and it's very important that because we know what that feels like, that we show our support. And so today I'm just going to give you a few people who have been quite notable in the area of hunger strikes, and have really it's been hard to ignore their hard protesting through their hunger strikes, through their other forms of protesting, but also the commonality would be the hunger strikes today. So first we're going to start with Mohandas Gandhi, the modern day pioneer of civil disobedience. Mahatma Gandhi went on several hunger strikes in his life. In the fall of 1924, he underwent a 3-week fast in an attempt to reconcile warring factions of Hindus and Muslims that had grown apart since he had been in prison. In 1932, when the Indian government established separate electorates for the untouchables, Gandhi underwent a 6-day hunger strike that led to better and more equal arrangements. He also performed a 3-week hunger strike for purification in spring 1933, and he used fasting liberally as a way to make political statement and to call attention to his crusade for political equity and equality, of course. So Muhammad was really one of the first people that I think was able to change policy through hunger strikes, and he went on a lot of hunger strikes. And I think it was also a spiritual thing for him. The fasting, there's a very big difference between fasting and hunger strike. Hunger strike means you're trying to make a political statement, you're trying to change something, you're trying to challenge. It's some sort of resistance. It is a resistance, where fasting is a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more holier. It's a little bit more of you wish this would happen, you praying for something, you're hoping for change, whereby I think with hunger strike it's a little bit more I'm going to literally hit you where it hurts. And I think he's a great example of how hunger strikes can work and why we actually need to be involved. And if we can see how he actually changed some people thinking, and how he changed policies, it does show that there is some sort of power in it. Also, remember, for the first 3 days on a hunger strike, the body lives on glucose, and after that, it begins to start processing body fat. And after 3 weeks, you are officially starving, and the body continues to mine its vital organs for nutrients. A lot of hunger strikers have died after 7 weeks of fasting. remember, if you are going to partake and you are going to get involved in the hunger strike, do so in a way that is not going to jeopardize your health, that's not going to jeopardize your family's health, that's not going to go on too long that you start getting complications. It's very important that you remember that you are doing it's a 24-hour strike. Nothing can happen to you in 24 hours, or especially if you do have the salt water or sugar water just to curb your hunger. But it's all about resistance. It's all about really protesting. It's just a silent way of protesting and saying, you know what, I am with you, and I support your cause. It's not about starving yourself to death. I don't think that's something that anyone would want on anybody. So don't take it too far. That's all I wanted to say. Second up on our list, we've got Marian Dunlop. Hunger strikes were a popular tool for suffragettes, as I said before, in the early 20th century, but the first woman to undertake one was Marian Wallace Dunlop. A member of the Women's Social and Political Union, Dunlop was charged with willful damage for throwing rocks through the windows of 10 Downing Street and sent to prison in July 1909. Inside, she went on a hunger strike that ran for 91 hours, just shy of 4 days, before she was released because of failing health. As a result of her action, the British government introduced a force-feeding policy that fell for all their prisoners that aimed to prohibit hunger strikes. And in 1913, the government passed the Prisoners' Temporary Discharge of Health Act, which allowed hunger strikes and discharged 6 inmates, but brought them back after recuperation to finish their sentences. Beautiful to hear that a woman also came across and also was able to get the government shaking through a hunger strike. Of course, I don't necessarily support the idea of force feeding. That destroys everything in me. I think when somebody is going on a hunger strike, or a group of people are going on a hunger strike in a prison, it needs to be something that needs to be put on a table. There needs to be communication. There needs to be change. It can't be completely action-based in terms of how they respond as to force feeding them or taking them away and then bringing them back. Remember, there are hunger strikes. The hunger strikes are not for nothing. They want to talk. They want to negotiate. They want something more than just a temporary solution. They want to fight for specific rights. And I think what it does, it just brings attention back to the cause and says, okay, you're on a hunger strike, but why? And that why leads to all the other questions. And I think that's what a lot of campaigns seek to do. The whys. Why is this happening? Why is there a campaign like this? Why is this necessary? And if people can carry on asking those kind of questions, I think we're on the right path of really discovering the solutions, of finding how we can develop and how we can change policies, and how we can be more robust in making sure that people have equal rights, and making sure that people are treated like humans and not just like nothing, like animals. And that's exactly what's happening to Palestinian prisoners. I mean, if you're not given the right to talk to your family, you're not given the right to a lawyer, you're not given the right to any kind of a basic human right, that to fight your trial, to have some sort of voice, we need to speak up. We need to say, hey, something's wrong. I mean, we've gone so far as a global, as people, I think, as a continent, as a country, as I think 2017, we can't still be talking about basic rights being ignored to this extent. So it's very important that we remember that, and we keep asking those questions of why. So Marian Dunlop was one of the first females to undertake a hunger strike. Next, we've got Alice Paul, an American suffragette as well, also a woman. Alice Paul fought to get women the right to vote with passion and tenacity. Hunger strikes are a powerful tool for the suffragettes. There's actually a really great movie that just came out now about the suffragettes. I'm just saying, go watch it. If you don't know anything about them, go watch it. Go read up a little bit more about them, and you'll understand what I mean when I say suffragettes. Anyway, Paul went on one while she was imprisoned in 1917 at the Virginia's Occoquan workhouse to protest the poor conditions. She had been arrested for like something small, like obstructing traffic with the protest. Now, her hunger strike got her a ticket to the psych ward, where she was force-fed raw eggs. but her protest served a larger purpose by helping fan the flames of public opinion. In 1918, President Wilson spoke of the need for suffrage, and women earned the right to vote in 1920. And with obviously the 19th Amendment, this is obviously in America. Now, Paul also wrote an Equal Rights Amendment rule, and also had a version, however her version wouldn't show up until 1972, which is again unfair for Paul. But here's another woman, a suffragette, who is fighting for the equality of women, but more than that, so that women could vote in America at the time. And remember, that sort of spiraled down and trickled down and moved into other countries, and we can't thank her enough for really starting that movement in her own little way. So that was obviously fueled by her hunger strike. Her hunger strike got that attention, and that attention allowed her to speak on what she needed to speak on. Another person who I like to share with you is Thomas Escher. More than a few famous hunger strikes hailed from Ireland, like Thomas Ashe, or Ashe, I think it's Ashe, a founding member of the Irish Volunteers. Ashe fought in the Easter Rising of 1916 to protest British rule, and they won a major battle but ultimately lost. And Ashe and others went to prison. Now, he led a hunger strike of other prisoners in May 1917 and was freed in June under general amnesty after reports got out about prisoners being abused. His freedom was short-lived, and he was arrested in August for giving a serious speech, and he went on a hunger strike when he was re-imprisoned. He then unfortunately died on September 25 after prison officials had to force feed him. His death warranted an inquest at which the jury found the prison staff for performing acts of unfeeling and barbaric conduct. Okay, that's one hunger strike that went really badly. Obviously, you don't want anyone to die. I think again, the issue is not wanting people to die, but to understand that there's things that people are willing to die for. And I think that's what the attention is for. The attention is not to say, this is the person and they died this day and this is what they were doing. But the attention is more like to say, there are so many of us that are willing to die for this cause. There's so many of us who are willing to put our lives on the line to make the statement. And that's where the why, again, as I said, will come in, where you're like, okay, this is important. People are on a hunger strike. The history of hunger strikes hasn't been the most purest. You have a lot of people who have died of it, a lot of people who have changed policies. But it's real when it's a real form of resistance, because it does play around with your health, it does play around with your well-being, and you could end up dead. So it's one of those that I think needs adequate attention and needs a really smart way of honoring and really speaking about it in a way that is going to be productive is the word. Yes. Another person who has gotten involved with hunger strike is Cesar Chavez. Now, Cesar Chavez was a towering figure in the farm labor movement and the co-founder of the National Farm Workers Association, which would eventually become the United Farm Workers. In 1965, Filipino-American farm laborers in Delano, California, initiated a strike for better wages. Now, Chavez supported them and soon led grape pickers on a march to the state capital. The strike would then run for 5 years. Now, in 1968, Chavez underwent a 25-day hunger strike to drive the point home, and his actions helped turn the tide of legislative battles in favor of workers favors of workers. So in 1989, Chavez participated in another hunger strike, this one lasting 36 days, which he called his Fast for Life, and used to protest the use of dangerous pesticides on farms. There are so many different things that people are willing to put their lives on the line for. And for Chavez, it had to have been obviously the better wages for farm laborers, especially of Filipino descent. Because especially if you think about the history of farm workers and laborers in the past, and everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world, actually, they seem to bear the brunt of of like really, really small wages. They don't get enough for the work that they do. Given that, if you think about agriculture, that's where most of the economy, especially in Africa, comes from. And especially in these little sort of third world countries, a lot of money, a lot of business comes from agriculture. So for these people to be working the kind of hours they're working, to be doing the kind of work that they're doing, to be making the kind of money they're making for their owners and be given such little wages, it's just horrible. And I think it's very important that we shine a light on those kind of movements, and we make sure that it doesn't happen again. It doesn't happen again. So Chavez was one of those people who I think went for long. I mean, 36 days, 25 days hunger strikes. Wow, that is something else. I don't know if I could do it. We also have some of the Tiananmen students in the 1989 student protest in China's Tiananmen Square are largely remembered today for the iconic image of a lone man standing in front of the row of the tanks. But the protest, which ran for weeks, also included the use of the protests, which ran for weeks, also included the use of mass hunger strikes as people took to the square to protest a host of issues. In May, a group of over 100,000 students and workers marched to demand better communication between the government and student elected representatives. When the government rejected their requests, hundreds of students responded by going on hunger strikes for 1 week. Their activities in turn inspired students at campuses nationwide, and the hunger strikes helped them gain broader support while also showing to Chinese authorities how serious these protests had become. Hunger strikes are never safe, but the Tiananmen Square showed that they can make for powerful statements against oppression. Again, you found a nice group of people, a group of students who really wanted to change their reality, and they all went on a strike. And again, sometimes it won't be such a quick change from the government. It won't be such a over-the-top change where it feels like it's overnight, but it will and gradually show authorities, it will gradually show those who are policymakers, those in charge, the governments, that this is the kind of power that we have, and this is the kind of power that we are generating from all over the world, and this is the kind of support we have. So you have to take us seriously, and that's actually the most important part. Take us seriously, hear what we're saying, or you will find yourself on the wrong side of history, and you'll find yourself being challenged by the rest of the world. And I think that's what's happening in with the Palestinian political prisoners today, is that a lot of people are catching on, a lot of people are fighting for them, a lot of government. And that's why I was so impressed when it was S.A Cabinet Ministers, because I was like, those are the people that we need to lead us, and they are leading that same movement in South Africa. So for me, it just became so beautiful and such a 360 moment for South Africans. And again, if you want to get involved, please don't forget to just find out how you can partake in the hunger strike. It's only 24 hours. You are allowed to have water with salt or water with sugar, and if you have, you can then email Palestinian political prisoners at gmail.com, and they will let you know as to how you can partake and participate. And remember, your name will be online after that, if you do partake, that is. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something, and I hope you took away something. Again, if you want more information and more of CSI, anything, please go to www.social-tv.co.za, or visit us on our Twitter pages or our social media pages on social-tv, or you can go to Viwe For Real on my Twitter page and ask me anything, or tell me what you want on the show, or let me know who you would like me to talk to on the show. Thanks, love and light, and see you all, or hear from me rather, all of you guys tomorrow.
Live from 27 Boxes in the heart of Melville, this is brandlive.co.za.